Debate, the honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Budgets are important, the core of a parliament. It is a real honor to be able to rise here today and speak to Budget 2022. For many of us, this is the first substantive piece of legislation that we, as new parliamentarians, are tasked with scrutinizing. The importance of this job that Canadians have trusted us to undertake cannot be understated. Every single day, many people from Hastings, Lennox, and Addington are calling and emailing my office with grave concerns about how they can make ends meet. Just last week, our office received hundreds of feedback forms indicating that the cost of living and affordability was their #1 concern. Cost of groceries, gas, home heating, everything, Madam Speaker, has increased. It is my obligation, it is my role as their member of parliament to bring them a voice in this House. On general spending measures, the Liberal government suggests that the announcements in the budget will help weather inflation and make housing more affordable. In my opinion, Madam Speaker, the continuation of this Liberal approach is destined to drive us right back into a crisis in an order of magnitude larger than the early 1980s, based on constantly adding new permanent spending programs on borrowed money. As noted in an article I recently read, only a small portion of our national debt is refinanced each year, so we won't get stung all at once. But year by year, servicing costs will rise, and the ability to be able to afford our essential programs will dwindle unless taxes rise substantially to cover the rising costs of both debt serving and increased program costs. The core function of our parliament has been and still remains to oversee the expenditure of public monies. Madam Speaker, the parliamentarians and parliaments themselves fought long and hard to pry this authority from the hands of imperial executives and governors decades ago. Their actions lend themselves to our uniquely Canadian brand of responsible government. In his important work, The Public Purse, which is used as source material in our most recent Practice and Procedure Manual, Norman Ward describes the struggle of our nascent pre-Confederation legislatures as it related to oversight thusly. Quote, "In principle, therefore, the first goal usually sought by an assembly was to make the executive at least partially dependent on the assembly for income. The second was to make it wholly so. The third, and most sophisticated, was to insist on some sort of detailed public accounting on a systemic basis of expenditures after they were made." Madam Speaker, in 1838, Lord Durham was sent by the Mother of Parliaments to investigate the cause of the previous year's rebellions in Upper and Lower Canada. One of the litany of causes was, as he describes, related to the relationships between the assemblies and the executives. In his hugely influential report, Lord Durham writes, "The Assembly, after it had obtained entire control over the public revenues, still found itself deprived of all voice in choice or even designation of the persons in whose administration of affairs it could feel confidence." Madam Speaker, he goes on to state, "It is difficult to conceive what could have been their theory of government, who imagined that in any colony of England, a body invested with the name and character of a representative assembly could be deprived of any of those powers which, in the opinion of Englishmen, are inherent in popular legislature." This speaks to two principles of parliamentary control of finances. Number one, the executive should have no income which is not granted to it or otherwise sanctioned by Parliament. Two, the executive should make no expenditures except those approved by Parliament in ways approved by Parliament. Madam Speaker, I'm not suggesting that this legislature does not possess the capacity to scrutinize. I know it does. But I do believe in recent years we are not properly wielding that authority effectively, especially as it relates to Mr. Ward's third point regarding what ultimately became our main estimates. And as a result, Canadians are now paying the price. We need only look at this very budget document for proof positive of what rushed legislation, most particularly budgets, do. Hidden away in Annex 3 of the budget, on the fourth last page, reads as follows. In Budget 2022, the government proposes to amend the Old Age Security Act to clarify that the one-time payment made in August 2021 to seniors aged 75 and older will be exempted from the income test for guaranteed income supplements and allowances. This amendment corrects a reference error resulting from the passage of the Budget Implementation Act 2021, number 1. This begs the question, Madam Speaker, what was the error? In Section 268 of the Budget Implementation Act 2021, the section that had intended to make the one-time $500 payment to struggling seniors aged 75 and up non-taxable, they quoted the wrong section of the Act. Instead of quoting Section 275, the section that actually created the payment, they cited Section 276, which is completely unrelated to seniors and instead deals with the Public Service Employment Act. As a result, right now under law, as desperate seniors are filing their taxes, that $500 is considered income, not just at tax time, but come the July recalculation period for benefits. In other words, Madam Speaker, this government has yet created and legislated another potential benefit clawback. I think it's only prudent to highlight that the last time the budget was time allocated, meaning the government, with the NDP support, actually limited the amount of debate we could have had on the budget. Debate that might have found this error. A debate that could have saved seniors the stress of another possible clawback. And I will note, Madam Speaker, that these are the same 75+ seniors that had the wrong T4 information sent to them due to a misprint. How convenient that the same exact group of people that were subject of an age-restricted benefit that everyone, including, I imagine, the CRA and the ERSDC, thought was non-taxable, received misprinted T4s. And then we find out what benefit is, under word of law, actually taxable. That is why my colleague from Miramichi Grand Lake and I called on this government to extend the filing date for seniors. With regards to seniors, they have very little to celebrate in this year's budget. Of a projected $56.6 billion in new spending through 2027, a paltry $20 million has been earmarked for supporting our seniors. To put that into perspective, Madam Speaker, that is 0.04 of spending announced in the next 5 years. There is nothing to help struggling formal and informal caregivers, nothing to help long-term care facilities, and nothing to help alleviate the increasing costs of living they all face. Low-income seniors need help today, and they can't afford to wait. To get back to my original point, our job here is to scrutinize. What we do here is the basis for responsible government. When we can't do our jobs, Canadians suffer. On my file alone, we've seen it with the GIS clawback, we've seen it with the T4 delays, and now we're seeing it with the one-time payment. All things that could have been avoided if we actually took the time to do our job right. I will give credit to my honourable member for seniors who is acting on things when brought to her attention, but the point is it should never have gotten to this point. I did want to touch lastly on the absolute absurdity that is our main estimates process in relation to the budgetary process and the need to align Treasury Board with Finance in preparation of those documents, but my time is running short. So I will leave you with one more recent quote. In 2019, improving transparency and parliamentary oversight of the government's spending plans by the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, Scott Bryson said, "The ability to exercise oversight over government spending is the most important role. parliamentarians can play in representing Canadians. I urge everyone here, let us heed the words of our formal Liberal President of the Treasury Board and let parliamentarians do our job thoroughly and effectively, because Canadians can't afford otherwise.